In the verdant highlands of Cameroon, nestled within the crater of an ancient dormant volcano, lies a body of water of extraordinary beauty. This is Lake Nyos. For generations its surface shimmered like a polished sapphire under the African sun, reflecting the lush, green hills that rose steeply from its shores. The water was remarkably still, a perfect mirror for the passing clouds. To the local villagers who lived in settlements scattered around its rim, the lake was a source of life and tranquility. It was a place of profound peace, a constant, unchanging presence in their world. They believed it to be a gentle guardian, its depths holding nothing more than the cool, clear water they relied upon. Life in the villages of Nyos, Subum, and Cha was simple and tied deeply to the rhythms of the land. Farmers tended their crops on the fertile volcanic soil, their children playing in the fields under the watchful eyes of their elders. Herds of cattle, their most prized possessions, grazed peacefully on the grassy slopes that descended towards the water's edge. The air was filled with the familiar sounds of a thriving community, the laughter of families, the lowing of livestock, the hum of insects in the warm afternoon. No one could have imagined that this idyllic landscape, so full of life and promise, held a secret. Beneath its serene surface, a silent and invisible danger was slowly, inexorably gathering strength, waiting for a moment to be unleashed. The people here had stories and legends about the lake, as all communities do about the great natural wonders in their midst. Some spoke of spirits dwelling in its depths, but these were tales told by firelight, not warnings of any real tangible threat. The lake had always been peaceful. It had never shown any sign of aggression or change. Its stillness was its most defining characteristic, a feature so absolute it felt eternal. This very stillness, however, was a clue to the immense pressure building below. The water was not mixing as it should, allowing a hidden element to accumulate layer upon layer in the silent, cold darkness of the lake's bottom. This lack of mixing created a unique and perilous condition. Deep within the earth, volcanic activity was releasing a steady stream of carbon dioxide gas. This gas, heavier than air, dissolved into the cold, dense water at the lake's floor, much like fizz being forced into a bottle of soda. For centuries, this process continued unnoticed. The upper layers of warmer, lighter water acted as a cap, sealing the gas-charged water below. Year after year, the concentration grew, turning the bottom of Lake Nyos into a vast, pressurized reservoir of invisible, odorless, and deadly gas. The beautiful lake was, in reality, a time bomb, ticking silently towards a catastrophe of unimaginable proportions. The evening of August 21st, 1986, began like any other. The sun set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, and a quiet calm settled over the villages surrounding Lake Nyos. Families gathered in their homes, sharing their evening meals, preparing for a night of rest. There was no tremor, no roar from the earth, no violent explosion to warn them of the impending doom. There was only a strange, brief rumbling sound from the direction of the lake, a noise some survivors later described as being like distant thunder. Then, a towering plume of water and foam erupted from the center of the lake, followed by a mysterious white cloud that rose high into the air. This cloud was not smoke or steam, it was a massive, fast-moving wave of pure carbon dioxide gas, freed from its watery prison. Being heavier than the air we breathe, it did not dissipate into the atmosphere. Instead, it hugged the ground, spilling over the crater's rim like a silent, invisible river. It flowed down the valleys and into the sleeping villages at speeds of up to 50 kilometers per hour. It moved without a sound, without a scent, and without mercy. As it traveled, it pushed the breathable oxygen out of the way, creating a lethal bubble that enveloped everything in its path. People, resting in their beds, simply stopped breathing. The morning of August 22nd arrived with a horrifying stillness. The sun rose to reveal a world that had fallen utterly silent. There were no birds singing, no insects buzzing, no cattle lowing in the fields. A few survivors who had been on higher ground, or who had been knocked unconscious and later revived, awoke to a scene of inexplicable tragedy. They walked through their villages in a state of shock and confusion, finding their families, their friends, and their neighbors lying peacefully in their homes and on the paths, as if they were merely asleep. There were no wounds, no signs of a struggle, no blood. It was a scene of mass death without a single mark of violence. The devastation was absolute and indiscriminate. More than 1,700 people and over 3,500 livestock perished in a matter of minutes. The gas suffocated everything in its path, from the smallest insect to the strongest bull. Even the vegetation near the lake showed signs of damage, turning a rust-like brown where the acidic gas had settled. The world outside knew nothing of the silent tragedy until the first bewildered survivors managed to reach the next town, bringing with them a story so strange and terrible it was difficult to believe. The silent killer had done its work, leaving behind a profound and haunting quiet. When the first rescue teams and scientists arrived at Lake Nyos, they were confronted with a baffling mystery. The scene was one of widespread death, yet there was no evidence of a conventional disaster. There had been no volcanic eruption in the traditional sense, no earthquake, and no sign of any chemical poison. The initial theories were wild and varied, but the truth lay hidden in the lake itself. Scientists began taking samples of the water and soon discovered the terrifying reality. The deep waters of Lake Nyos were supersaturated with dissolved carbon dioxide, a direct product of the volcanic geology beneath it. The cause of the sudden release, the trigger for the catastrophe, is believed to have been a landslide or rockfall into the lake, perhaps caused by heavy rains. This disturbance was enough to disrupt the stable layers of water. As the deep, gas-rich water rose towards the surface, the pressure holding the carbon dioxide in solution decreased dramatically. This started a chain reaction. Bubbles began to form and rise, pulling more deep water up with them, causing what is known as a limnic eruption. In a catastrophic instant, an estimated 1.2 cubic kilometers of carbon dioxide gas burst from the lake, creating the deadly cloud that descended upon the surrounding valleys. To explain it simply, imagine a bottle of soda that has been shaken vigorously. The gas is trapped inside under pressure. The moment you open the cap, the pressure is released, and the gas fizzes out, erupts violently. Lake Nyos was like a natural, gigantic bottle of soda, and on that August night, something had suddenly twisted the cap. The sheer volume of gas released was staggering, displacing all the oxygen in a vast area. It was an invisible enemy, a force of nature that killed by stealth, leaving its victims with no chance to react or escape. The stillness of the lake was not a sign of peace, but a sign of this immense, contained pressure. This discovery was a chilling revelation. It meant that Lake Nyos and other similar deep crater lakes around the world were not the tranquil sanctuaries they appeared to be. They were potential natural weapons, capable of releasing silent death upon anyone living nearby. The tragedy was not a one-time event, but a consequence of a specific set of geological and physical conditions that could and likely would repeat themselves if left unchecked. The scientific community now understood the killer's identity and its method, and with that knowledge came a heavy responsibility to ensure such a silent tragedy could never happen again. Armed with the terrible knowledge of what Lake Nyos was capable of, scientists and engineers set out to find a solution. They could not remove the source of the gas, which seeped continuously from the Earth's mantle, but they could prevent it from building up to deadly concentrations again. The answer was surprisingly simple in concept, though challenging in execution. They needed to safely release the pressure. They devised a system of pipes that could be lowered deep into the lake, to the very bottom where the carbon dioxide was most concentrated. This was a way to give the sleeping giant a way to breathe. The first degassing pipe was installed in 2001, followed by others in the subsequent years. These pipes work like giant straws. A pump is used initially to draw the gas-charged water up the pipe. Once the water reaches a certain height, the decreasing pressure allows the dissolved gas to form bubbles. This bubbly mixture is less dense than the water around it, so it begins to rise on its own, creating a self-sustaining fountain. A constant, controlled plume of water and gas now shoots from the top of the pipe, safely venting the carbon dioxide into the atmosphere in small, harmless amounts. This process prevents the gas from ever reaching the catastrophic levels of 1986. Today, these fountains are a permanent feature on the surface of Lake Nyos. They are a constant, visible reminder of the invisible danger that still lurks in its depths. The system is monitored carefully, ensuring that the degassing process is working effectively to keep the lake stable and the surrounding communities safe. The people who have returned to the area live with the knowledge of what happened, but they also live with the reassurance that science is standing guard. The lake that once brought so much sorrow is now a powerful symbol of how human ingenuity can work in harmony with nature to mitigate its most formidable threats. The story of Lake Nyos is a profound and humbling lesson. It teaches us that even the most beautiful and serene landscapes can conceal immense power and hidden dangers. Nature operates on a scale and in ways we do not always understand, and it demands our respect and our vigilance. The silent tragedy of 1986 serves as a stark reminder that we must continuously seek to understand the planet we inhabit. By studying these powerful natural phenomena, we not only protect ourselves, but also deepen our connection to the intricate and sometimes perilous world that is our only home. Lake Nyos is a warning, but it's also a story of hope and resilience.